Welcome to another episode of the Modern Day Med Spa here with Dean and Charmaine. Today we're talking about our money mindset, things that we could be thinking about in terms of running a business and how it helps us to show up in our business on a daily basis. Dean, what's going on, brother?
Just kicking like Bruce Lee, man.
I love it. Charmaine, how's it going?
Great, great.
I
Beautiful
love
day.
it. So the purpose of today's episode again is to talk about how we view money in order to attract more money, right? I remember when
Mhm.
I was growing up, my parents were ultra frugal. Notice they weren't cheap,
Yeah.
right? They were big investors in like the stock market and stuff like that. They did not like to own like super expensive things, which is fine. I'm on board with that. I don't think you need like Lambos and all that to make you look like you're super famous and all that. But in terms of like investing in themselves and how they invested, that's where like the generational switch kind of came into place. And now like I have just have a different mindset. So I wanted to ask you guys, Dean especially, like how did that take place in your youth as it now shows up for you?
Yeah. So, guys, see a delay on this? I know we're live, but might as well just know. Is it coming in clean?
Yeah, it's a little delayed right now. We'll see what happens at the end.
That's all right. That's all right. Well, honestly, um, mine was a little bit like Rich Dad Poor Dad. And for those who haven't read that book, I highly suggest it. But my mom was Rich Dad, and my dad was Poor Dad. My dad
Mm,
was 9 to 5. Savings account, uh, get your pension, you know, very, very sad to say, but traditional. And that shouldn't be the tradition, but it has become the societal tradition to do things that way. My mom was more like, you got to spend money to make money. The more you put out into the world, the more will come back. Um, you know, uh, she had an abundance mindset, and my dad had kind of a scarcity and lack mindset. So for me, it was interesting growing up in a home like that because my mom would go on wild tears of spending with us, and then it was like, "Shh, don't tell your dad," you know. Um, and then my dad like thought splurging was taking me to like Kmart, showing my age, Kmart, and buying a baseball glove. And so growing up in between those two nuances was interesting. It was really when I started getting older, seeing how one way worked better than the other, especially for me. The 9 to 5 wasn't my thing. I definitely had an entrepreneurial mindset, and if you are going to have that, you have to have the money mindset. And the money mindset I'm talking about specifically is one of abundance. Um, when I got into business with the gym that we have, that was one of the first lessons is like, especially in a town where the median income is sub 40K per home, not individual. um, when we were selling gym memberships for close to $200 a month, and I can literally throw a rock from our gym and hit another gym that's doing it for $65 a month. I really had to overcome some mindset issues in terms of money, and getting to a point where I was taking my own cognitive biases out of it and getting my hand off of somebody else's wallet and understanding that I can't project what they can afford or can afford for the services that we provide, because I had to learn that if somebody finds value in something, it doesn't matter what it is. They will pay a great deal for it if they find the value in it. So that was one of the biggest things in changing my mindset, was getting from a transactional uh, destination of a dollar amount to a transformational value with a dollar point attached to it. Does that make sense?
it
Yeah.
does make sense, and I think that like where I think I see that showing up quite a bit as well is when med spa owners they attach their own wallet to other potential clients, and the way that shows up is like, oh, this is it's like $2,000. Sorry, and they're like, $2,000 is like a drop in the hat for them. You know what I mean? And it shows up. They're like, well, what's wrong with $2,000? Is it not worth it? You know what I mean? And so it's that kind of energy that kind of puts it in there. Charmaine, I'd love to hear from you. Like, how did
Yeah.
you grow up, and how's that
So,
changed for you?
I mean, mine is similar, and that's literally when Dean said the Rich Dad Poor Dad. I mean, I've read the book, and it's same for myself. However, mine was, my mom never worked. My dad was 9 to 5, sweet guy. Actually, today's would have been his birthday.
Oh, my grandpa's
But
too. Today was my grandpa's 100th
really,
birthday. Congrats.
yeah, yeah. So today would have been his birthday. Sweet guy, just kind of 9 to 5, whatever. My mom kind of ruled the roost. However, when my Rich Dad Poor Dad, for myself, it would be when I was in middle school. Because I mean, growing up on the Lower East Side, like we were kind of just, we were not the highest end, but we were there. But then I went to a different middle school, and I played sports and being around, and I was good at them. So I was around the kids that were actually really good, and they were one of the highest uh, families in town. Coming from again the median of $40,000 a month for that being the full family, and then to going to hanging out with my friends' parents that are millionaires. I saw something different, and that's when it changed in myself to where I'm like, oh, there's way more, because I was never exposed to that. So being said, I've always kind of been around people in that mindset, and then going to college, and then when I went in the dental field, I mean, I was around multi-million-dollar dentists all the time, and I was the office manager. I saw all the whole concept, and really truly what we've kind of how Renew has grown is because of that mindset, and knowing that I mean, we would do $98,000 cases, and they would just write a check
Mhm.
for it. But it's
Right.
because there's value in that. And for myself, sometimes I still like, because I'm an empath, and I just try to, even though I know like it's going to make someone's life better, and I know that what my value is, and I put a ton of money into my training, I still try and discount people just because I want them to feel that way. But that in that that's where that little what am I trying to say? Like, when we discount ourselves as providers, it's more so for me why I do that. It's not I am going into their pocket, but I've also learned to step back from that a little bit too, because my education and all the things that I have worked so hard to get to where I'm at, I need to,
It's valuable.
yeah, I need
Absolutely.
to show my value on that.
Yeah,
So
we're all the three of us are parents here, and it's just like the way that we talk to our kids about these kinds of things too can affect the way that they might grow up. Things like, oh, so and so makes 100 grand a year. Oh my gosh, blah blah blah.
Mhm.
Well, then you're putting 100 grand a year at like putting it out on a pedestal. Whereas like, what happened to $1 million? Is that just
yeah,
completely unreasonable? It's not,
no,
Yeah.
or we can't afford that, or we don't have that kind of money, that kind of thing. Those are the things that we say to our kids sometimes that like can really like mess with their mindset. And the way that we've talked to like business owners and med spa owners is that like that takes just the recognition of that, and knowing what that is and where that comes from can allow you to help you undo those money mindset things to allow you to charge more for what you're worth and to give as much value as possible. And that's what we're all about.
yeah, for sure.
Absolutely. Yeah. And then, I know this is a med spa podcast, but it's a parenting podcast too. Don't talk about money like that in front of your kid. You know what I
Yeah,
Yeah,
mean? Just don't
exactly.
fucking do it. Don't
symbols.
put limitations. Don't say something is too expensive or too far out of reach or something like that. All you're doing is limiting their capacity, and
That's
you're doing
exactly
that to
right.
them, not them. So
Yeah,
avoid that.
yeah.
Okay.
Even when it's something like that, like my children will ask for, it's not Rylan because he's just, he does his thing. But like with Ash, she'll ask for something, and if it's something like that's not like a little bit above and beyond, I'm like, all right, well, how are you going to work for that?
Mm,
Because that's she's going to have to work for it in the long run, and I feel like if we're talking about parenting, if we give our kids everything, they're not going to know the value of it. But if you also have them work a little bit and help them a little bit, that's going to guide them a little bit more in the future.
Yeah, I think just
Absolutely.
having like a strong money mindset helps you just attract more
Hmm.
money, more clients, and just having a healthy mindset around
Right.
not being scared to ask and those kinds of things.
Yeah.
It just creates a healthy business owner in general.
Right.
It does. And it's one of those things where not even ask for it, demand it of yourself, right? Knowing
Hmm.
your worth and potential. So, like, a lot of the mindset has to come down to actually your own sense of self worth and your own
For sure.
value, right? If somebody, like, with a lot of the folks that we work with, one of the biggest things that we have to overcome is this notion that they're almost apologizing to people when they tell them the price of these
Yeah.
procedures. And what you're doing is you're basically saying, "Oh, I'm sorry, I fucking suck at this, but I'm still going to charge you 5K." You know what I mean?
Right.
And the chances are you don't fucking suck at that. You're probably really freaking good at whatever it is that you're going to do, whether you're a laser tech, an injector, or even if you're the front desk person ringing people up, kind of like, "Yeah, that's going to be 2K." "Oh, I'm sorry, but here's the cost." And, "Oh, I know that one stings the old pocketbook a little bit, but hey, you're
Yeah.
not going to have wrinkles." It's almost self-deprecating,
Hmm.
it's just a fucking bad look because it basically
Yeah.
makes you look like you don't know what the fuck you're doing or you don't feel justified charging that. So
Right.
one of the things that's really cool, if you can't get your own scarcity or lack thereof abundance, mindset wrapped around this, you got to fake it until you make it. And what you can do, one of the things that you can do, and I'm not about faking it till you make it, by the way, but one thing that you can do to get by on that is we work with people. It's like, I want you to think of the biggest package you can come up with for somebody, right? If it's all the things, injections, energy based devices, facials, and selling it to their whole fucking family. What is that number? Now, practice saying that shit over and over again in front of a mirror so your face doesn't crack when you say it. You have poker face and you're good at it and you just keep doing it. And it sounds silly, but at some point you're going to actually convince yourself that this is it and this is just fine.
That's
Yeah.
exactly right.
I agree. And I think on one of the things, I think in a team, and this is what you do, coach, and this is what we help with. I do think that in a team, you know, the owner usually knows the value, and because they're the ones going to the trainings and they know, and they also are the ones writing the freaking check at the to the company, like we'll say for a laser, for example. But I think it does get a little bit watered down each team member that you have. So that's where I think in this money mindset, I do think it would be helpful or that the owner does train their staff on the ability of the laser, but also putting that the before and after pictures and seeing the result that they are getting. So that way, if it is the employee telling them like how much the service is, there's results backing it, and to where it's a lot easier for the employee to say this is what it costs, because and the fact of the matter is, like, there's $300,000 lasers that we have to pay for, and we have the overhead and whatnot. And I think if the staff or team members don't know exactly, just like how we were when we were kids, like we didn't know what mom and dad's bills were, we thought
No,
everything was just given.
just yeah,
The
exactly.
same thing,
So true.
we have to be very transparent with our team, like, so that way they know like what it costs to operate a business. And I think that's one of the things too. I know I always go off tangent, but that's just me.
It's
Um,
fine. Yeah.
but even with, like, in this industry, everybody thinks that it's like glorious and whatnot. And I know the people that are listening probably have the same issue as me, is they think that it's so glorious because we only put out the good things that are happening, but they don't know what our overhead is, and neither
Right.
does our employees, and how hard, how many years we've had to work to get to the place that we're at. But I
Exactly.
do think, definitely having a transparent um, amount mindset, and then also of what bills are, clear goals are for the
Mhm.
office. I think that is very helpful, and that's why I think that people our employees are like, ooh, they don't think that it's good enough, but it's because it's so easy. You know what I mean? As far
Yeah,
as the clinician standpoint, it's easy to
100%.
do, not it's not easy to get that technology.
Exactly. And I think that the transparency, especially when you're a leader, is so it's much needed because not only from like an understanding and a clarity standpoint, but Dean, what happens if there is a leader or an owner who's in charge and they have a scarcity mindset? What does that do for the employees? We've seen this before.
Yeah, we
Yeah,
have.
absolutely. And honestly, a lot of times it's more often than not that this is the case. And the reason the staff is that way is because of the leader. If you, gosh, and like you said, we've seen this literally up close and personal, but it trickles down. It's a snowball effect, right? So if the leader has a scarcity mindset and is constantly panicked about revenue coming in and the bills going out and this, that, and the other, and trying to really get across something else to their staff when it is time to change, it's damn near freaking impossible because the damage has
Yeah.
already been done, right? There's already this scarcity, already this lack. And then what ends up happening, and again, this is kind of, well, not
That's,
really, I think they're related, but I was going to say kind of getting away from the mindset issue. But what you see happening is because they didn't have a good money mindset to begin with, they weren't probably charging what they were worth. So it starts this goddamn butterfly effect of now they're not bringing in the revenue
yes.
that they should be bringing in. So they start fucking buying all these devices and doing all these procedures, or at least getting the equipment or ability to do those things to think that it's going to save them. But because they didn't have the right money mindset to begin with, those things are just fucking
Correct.
dust collectors and hat racks. So now they have
Yeah.
500,000 plus in bills lying around and they can't get ahead because they don't know how to charge what they need to charge to pay for those devices and or their staff and any other perks that they
Right.
provide. So you can
Yep.
see, this isn't really a snowball effect. It's a big pile of shit and shit rolls downhill. So when that happens, now your staff is covered in feces that you freaking basically splattered all over them from your butt.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, and to kind of circle back about the money mindset, or as far as like being a parent, that's just like, if your parents are always stressed, like, the kid asks for something, and the parent is like, no, do you know how much that costs? So then that's
Yep.
limiting their mindset, like of like even to say for example, if you have a staff member who saw something really cool on Instagram that this other place is doing, it's like, and you're asking the owner like, hey, I think this would be very beneficial to the office, this and that, and like, then if the owner is, the response is like, no, we can't afford that, we can't even afford to do that, even though that may be the case, it would be like,
Right.
okay, well, I think a different response in that would be, let's have a goal of X amount, and as soon as we utilize the machines or technology that we do have here, then we can use that money to purchase this device and then to
Exactly.
expand a little bit. So circling back to, like I said, like being a parent, that is the mindset, and that's what I've learned on for myself. On, again, circling back to the rich dad poor dad
Right.
mindset is, I've kind of tried to raise my children almost exactly the opposite of how I was raised, but also with those same qualities of, of being humble. So
Hmm.
I mean, I think managing a team and being a parent is
Along the same lines.
right,
Yeah.
like right on that
Yeah.
line.
Yeah. They're on the same path here. And I think like managing yourself as well and managing
Yes,
your own money mindset, you can change this. This
the
isn't
hard
like
one.
ingrained in you forever, but it does take some work and being able to recognize the differences between. So like if you say, hey, I want, let's say I'm talking to my kid, hey, I want a new Xbox. The worst is like, oh, we can't afford it. In the middle would be like, okay, let's just get one now. Because what does that say? That's instant gratification, right?
Right.
And
Right.
then what we should do is almost like set a goal towards it.
Yep.
He's like, well, hey, I want a new Xbox. Okay, well, it's like $400. Well, okay, well, how much do you have right now? How much do you have from like doing your chores or whatever it
Yep.
is? He's like, well, I only have like $100. Okay, well, let's set a plan so that you can
Yeah.
get it a lot sooner. What else can you do so that
Yeah.
you can do so here? And that affects the way that they look at how to make money. They start to get
Right.
creative and all these other things.
Exactly.
So super
100%.
powerful.
Same thing for like with my children now. Like my son now is into flipping tractors, and he's 18 now, and he's just very creative. But he's been looking on Marketplace. This is an example, but like he's been looking at Marketplace because I've instilled this in him since he was young. I usually will put, all right, you want that? I'll put half down. What are you going to do to get the other half? It's on them
Yep.
at that point.
Absolutely.
So I think that's always another way to help, even with your staff on all around
Yep.
a lot of different situations.
Absolutely. Dean, one last thought for you.
Yeah, mindset can be kind of a difficult issue to discuss and cover because there's other key components that you have to touch on rather than just going down the woo-woo rabbit hole of think better and better will come. Although that is very, very true and accurate. When we're thinking about money mindset, I think one of the most important things to fundamentally instill in yourself and your staff as a med spa owner is that there is nothing but abundance out there. And you being in the med spa industry are in one of the safest and most recession proof businesses there are out there. So you can let the news beat you over the head with how nobody is making any money all you want, or you can turn that crap off, realize that the lipstick effect will occur. Everybody wants to be beautiful. It doesn't matter if it's a depression, a recession, a Thursday or Saturday night. Everybody wants to be beautiful. Everybody is happy, nay, more than happy, to give you their money to be fucking beautiful. And that'll continue to happen. And that will go on until med spas are no longer a thing. This is going to become a multi-billion dollar industry in the next probably 14 fucking minutes. But especially as the years go on, it's only going to get better. So if you're having mindset issues, just fucking suck it up, buttercup, because people have a shit ton of money and they want to look good. So just tell them the high price and be worth it.
That's exactly right. So out of this episode, big takeaways from me are just change your mindset by either changing what you see on your feeds, what you listen to, who you're around. And then also just think about the changes that you're making for these people and how much value you're giving them. So thank you guys. This is super helpful. If you're a med spa owner, go to audacityconsulting.group where you can find out a little bit more about how we can help. For Dean, for Charmaine, my name is Mark Molniawi. We will see you guys in the next episode.